Alright fellas, this here is my knife filing jig, bevel filing jig. Now, it's a bit of an old concept at this point, and the originator for this style of knife filing jig is Gough. So go give him some love. His knives are an absolute thing of beauty and also utilitarian as you can get, but they are just so good. And this is the style of jig that he started with when he was making knives. Okay, I've used one of these before when I got started knife making myself, and frankly it was a bit not quite enough, and I wanted to make a upgraded version. I'll walk you through all the basics that I've done, but the gist of Aaron's design is really, it's very similar. He doesn't have the swivel plate, and you just use an eye bolt to set the height at different holes. Now, I've made a few upgrades. I'm going to share them with you. So if you were making a knife filing jig yourself, you could incorporate some of these or not any of these ideas with you. Upgrade 1 will be this backstop. Now this backstop is just a strip of aluminium I put a couple of holes in, screw down. Now I like this because it makes sure that when I clamp a knife down on here, that with the force of filing, that the knife cannot go backwards, right? So it's always going to stay on that position long as I have it clamped down so that it doesn't move sideways. And it shouldn't move sideways because I'm always filing in that same direction. Upgrade number 2 in that same vein is essentially a backstop for the board. Even if you got this thing clamped in real good and tight onto your table, it's still going to want to slide back because you're always pushing on it. Remember, a file cuts on the push. This just helps to ensure that as you push on it, it's not going to slide back, then you have to reset it, put the new clamp back on, blah blah blah. Upgrade number 3 is, I'll try and show you on this, but I've got some videos of me putting them in. But on this plyboard, on the back side of this top bit of plyboard, you can see here, I have these nuts that are intended to be driven into wood. Now, those nuts are so that I can actually move this very easily to different positions. Well, I lied when I said very easy, but you know, easy enough. And move it, say, here. I want to have it here. Or I want to have it here. Or I could even take this bit off, which has screws here on both sides, and use it as a jack to, well, maybe put a longer screw in, use it as a jack to adjust the angle of this coming up and down. And this plate alone is also a big improvement in compared to just having a eye bolt that you screw in and out of the bare wood. Now, if I don't want to use that, I can take that off pretty easily. Of course it's 13 mil. I have no idea why it's 12 and 13 mil. Anyway, okay, I can take this plate off, move it back and forth. There's 3 positions, and there's also a row of holes on this bare block, right? The last upgrade I've done is this gizmo right here. Now this is a swivel caster that you'll find for like $5 at Bunnings or wherever your local hardware store is at. And the nice thing about these is that they swivel sideways, and they have a place for you to put a swivel block in. For me, it's just a piece of wood I found. I think it's red oak, redwood, something, that that's just got a hole in it for my bar to go through. And that means that this, and you'll notice that when you use Aaron's original jig, that as you move the file in and out, it tends to squeak because it's metal against metal. Also sideways, you're twisting the eye bolt up and down. Yeah, it's not a hell of a lot, but it is still something. So this just gives me an extremely smooth and squeak-free movement. The rod is from a dead 3D printer I disassembled from work a few years ago, and all this plywood was just some scrap we had lying around, which was perfect. Now this took me about 2 hours to slap together, cut, drill a few holes in, bang a bunch of those nuts in, and then this thing was just replace the wheel with a block of wood with 2 holes in it at 2 different angles, and boom bam. And I think this turned out extremely well, works very well. I just got done setting up an initial bevel on one of my knives that I'm making. Man, it just doesn't want to zoom, does it? I think this is a great upgrade. If you're going to make one of these, I think you should make an upgraded version like I have. Just not because it's necessary, but because it's actually easy to do and it's small upgrades that anybody could be doing. If I were to do this again, I would actually make some parts of this from metal. So like this front bit, this top plate, and as well as the swivel plate. But that's unnecessary, and that's just a metal worker and me having a bit of a wank about I could make that out of metal and be 100 times better, even though it really won't be, eh?